Everybody, welcome to the District Number 9 Board of Education meeting for Tuesday, November 12th, 2024. Can we have our roll call and declaration of quorum?
Vinny, here. Bradley. Here. Silva.
Here.
Curran.
Here.
Stacy, absent. Noble, absent. Linneman.
Here.
Ms. Cochran, also absent. We have a quorum.
All right. And yeah, I think I'm on. Okay. Now for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by an invocation by Pastor Stacy Wilson with GC First Assembly of God.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the great day that you've given us, and we thank you for the opportunity to gather as a community and to hear the plans and to hear the thoughts that this board has come up with and is planning to execute. Lord, we just ask that you would give them wisdom, that you would lead and guide them to care for the families and students of our community as the priority, and that you would be with us as a district and bless our community. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. And next, public comment, which I don't think we have any today. Next, Section 5, the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of the Board of Education held on October 22nd, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, a roll call.
Bradley.
Aye.
Silva.
Aye.
Curran.
Aye.
Linneman.
Aye.
Vinny, aye.
Okay, and up next, we have our reconfiguration presentation by Dr. Don Harris, our Superintendent of Schools.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Kern. While Chris is setting up, Mr. Mitchell is setting up, I just want to say publicly thank you to all the administration and staff who helped prepare this. A lot of long hours have been put in. I appreciate everything. I am the spokesperson, but I am not the person who helped do all of this. So they've done a great work on this. I appreciate their time, a lot of the input from buildings as well. So thank you very much for that. Mr. Mitchell, are we ready? Okay. Thank you. Yes, district reconfiguration for the 25-26 school year. First, why are we considering a restructuring of the elementary buildings? Well, as many of you are aware, GCSD9 board members conducted a survey of the community, staff, and students within the Granite City School District regarding the restructuring of our elementary grade levels. The survey results revealed an interest in returning to a multi-grade level resembling a neighborhood school reconfiguration. I can tell you as an administrator and a longtime resident here, I did have some concerns about that because I wondered how are we going to get to neighborhood schools, which with some of our neighborhoods no longer have a school there. So I was pleasantly surprised, as you'll see when we started going through this, we were able to get to that. But we did want to first talk about our current district configuration, which basically has Granite City High School serving students 9th through 12th, our Coolidge, our junior high, serving 7th and 8th grade students, and Grigsby 5th and 6th grade center serving our 5th and 6th grade students. I do want to point out that all of those buildings currently serve the entire district. So there is one boundary throughout the entire Granite City School District for those buildings. Then we have our Mitchell and Frohard, our 3-4 centers. Maryville and Wilson are our 1-2 centers. And those 4 schools have 2 boundaries set up throughout the district. So they serve, basically, the district is split in half where we only have 2 boundaries in the community. And then Prather, our pre-K center, again, that's another full district boundary. And then we have Lake, which is our alternative school, and that is a full district boundary. Obviously, that does not service necessarily by location. So currently, we have 4 buildings serving the entire district with boundaries. We did want to put some of the pros and cons for the attendance centers that we currently have. Consistent implementation of curriculum across grade levels. That's a horizontal alignment. That's a pro. Most economical. We do not have to add any additional staff, obviously, because that's what we're currently how we're serving our students and our families. Consistent class size across grade levels. With grade levels in 1 or 2 of the buildings, we're able to balance our class sizes. If students move within the consistent building for our transient students, if the students move within the Granite City School District, they're most likely to remain in the same class if they would move. Teacher collaboration, again, across the same grade levels. Greater flexibility for providing specialized services. So with students clustered at larger amounts, services are provided easier within a specific building. Some of the cons, longer bus routes, larger boundaries lead to the longer bus routes. I mentioned that earlier. We have 4 buildings servicing our entire district. More school transitions. At a minimum, students are only in a building for 2 grade levels before moving to the next building, so we're always moving up. Different school start times. Elementary buildings have various start times, and I'm going to get into the reason for that a little bit later. We currently service a 3-tier transportation model, and that's with our busing. Again, I'll explain that a little bit more later as well. And then limited after-school activities. Because of the various start times and end times, it is difficult to provide after-school activities for our students. So the 3-tier versus 2-tier transportation model, if you're around a person that's dealt with transportation, you may hear them talk about this, and this, for those of you who don't understand it, may be a little foreign. And so currently, we utilize a 3-tier transportation model to service with families within our community. So 3-tier buses will run 3 total routes, both AM and PM timeframes. For an example, Bus X will pick up GCHS students, then Coolidge students, and then Mitchell students in the AM, and then repeat the same in the afternoon. The opening and closing times will be staggered to enable one bus to handle several routes. More tiers equate to more divisions in start times. There would have to be at least 3 divisible start times, which means more staggered start times. Under a 2-tier model, which if you've been with our district for a while, previously, probably about 5 years ago, that's how we operated, but with the shortage of bus drivers, we had to move to the 3-tier. So buses will run a total of 2 routes in both the AM and the PM timeframes. An example, Bus X will pick up GCHS students and then Mitchell students in the AM and then repeat for the departures. The opening and closing times will be less staggered with only 2 routes. Less tiers equates to more consistent start times. Boundaries have a huge impact on whether we can do this. And again, in our current model, as I talked about, we have 4 schools that currently serve the entire school district, which means 1 big boundary. Okay, if we look at the K4 configuration, this is a new example, one of the ones that we've looked at. You'll see we still, through high school, Coolidge and Grigsby, they would remain the same. High school would service students in grades 9 through 12. Coolidge would service students in grades 7th and 8th. And then Grigsby, again, would be the intermediate school and service students in 5th and 6th. Again, keeping 3 schools with the full district boundary. Under this model, Mitchell, Frohart, Maryville, and Wilson would be K4 buildings. And so that would split boundaries up there where they would service students in grades K through 4. Prather would remain our pre-K center and also service students in grades K through 4 as well. Lake would remain a 5th through 12th grade center with the alternative school. Now what you've all been waiting to see are our boundaries. And so this is the K4 boundaries. And the colors are, I'm going to try and say what they are. I know on the screens they may look a little different from printed copy. We did as good as we could to try and make it, again, a neighborhood school. You can see some of the boundaries are bigger. That's just because where population is. We wanted to make sure that we balanced classrooms. To do this, we first off looked, and if you've been listening to my updates, you know, we looked at counted our buildings and made sure we have enough classrooms. Then we went through and make sure we have enough teachers to cover in the classrooms. And so that's what's led to then, okay, now we know, and these boundaries will fit within our needs if we go to a K4 model. So Wilson is there in blue, and I know it's probably hard to tell what street you have, where you'll go. Just know at the end of this presentation, we will have a link where you can go on and look at the PDF. You can find your street, and then you could look it up to see if we go to a K4 model, what K4 building you would attend. So Wilson is in blue, and the little flag, the blue flag there shows where the school is actually located. Frohart, from here it looks like it's almost a pink, but on my paper it looks orange. So that is...
It's a coral.
Coral, there we go. We'll go with
Or a
coral.
salmon.
Yes. So it's right there. That is the Frohart boundaries. And then Prather is in the bright yellow, and Prather is located over there where the blue flag is, and you can see the yellow boundaries for Prather. And then Maryville, you can see that does a big area, again, similar to, I haven't said Mitchell yet, but that is the orange. So all the way down into there, that is where the Maryville boundaries go. And then Mitchell is, there it looks purple to me. I have dark red on my paper, but again, the Mitchell boundary is a very big boundary because the population there of families is not as great, but it helps balance the building sizes to be the same. So that is the K4 boundaries. So with our K4, we have some potential start and end times with the three-tier transportation model with those three buildings with Granite City High School, Coolidge, and Grigsby still servicing the entire district. We are unable to cut back on our busing needs, so we would still have to look at a three-tier model as we do this, again, as district-wide routes. Typically, just for your knowledge, it takes about 16 buses to run a district-wide route. So we utilize 16 buses to handle the Granite City High School, then Coolidge, and then Grigsby. So if you'll notice their times are not much different to our current model that we currently have, where you have Coolidge going first at 7:30, then we have High School going next at 8:15, and then again Grigsby at 9:25. And if you look over at the end times, again, they're very similar to what we currently have. So then the next thing we look at is, so that's basically using half of our buses to do that for that three-tier route. So then we use the other buses, and you see Mitchell and had a larger boundary, so we put that kind of by itself. And so you're going to have basically Mitchell and Prather. Since that's a larger school, the boundary's not as big, but you have more population of students that can go there. They will work together on their buses, where then in the next round, or the first round, would be Frohart, Maryville, and Wilson, and so we would link those buses together. That's why you'll see the 9 o'clock Mitchell start time, the Prather start time at 9 o'clock. You see the pre-K at 9:15, those are separate buses, but then you see the 8:15 for Frohart, Maryville, and Wilson, and then again, the end times after that. And then our Lake, again, separate situation, the alternative school, that's at 8 to 1:30, which is very similar to what we currently have. Some pros and cons for our K4 building model. Some pros, we get some vertical alignment of curriculum within the buildings. This is a similar structure to the previous K4 configuration before we went to the attendance centers that we're currently in. That was how we had serviced our families within the school district, which is approximately about a decade ago when you look back. So some of you may not have been a part of that at all. The least amount of student staff displacement when we compare that to a K6. Obviously, when we make a change, we draw new boundaries, we're going to have some displacement of staff and students. We're going to have to move staff because they're going to probably be teaching a different grade level in a different building, and so we will look at that. So there's going to be some displacement there. And then it's less additional staff needed if we go to than if we would stay at a K6 or if we go to a K6. Some of the cons, it does require some additional staff compared to the current model. Limited after-school activities. With the various start and end times, after-school activities are difficult to set up. Discrepancy between class sizes within the buildings. With 5 buildings housing K4, class sizes are more difficult to balance. We'll have a slide later on. I'll kind of really talk about that as we go on through this presentation. Limited flexibility in providing specialized services. Again, since we are split between 5 buildings, we aren't able to cluster our students together as much, and so it's going to make it our services probably look a little different than what we currently provide. Again, we're only able to provide, even though we're splitting up, we're still only be able to go to a 3-tier transportation model. And then this is something I've spoken about before, is the 6-day enrollment. There'll probably be some staff movement as we look at our numbers and see where people have actually enrolled. There could still be some staff moved around after 6-day enrollment. So the next is our K6 configuration. This is where we basically take it where we can look at the possibility of a 2-tier model. Because basically Coolidge and high school will be the only schools now that service our entire district. And so we've cut back, we've drawn more boundaries. So in this model, obviously, high school will 9-12, Coolidge will be 7-8. Grigsby, we will split our pre-K. Grigsby and Prather are our larger buildings, and so Grigsby would now house part of the pre-K program as well as Prather. So we would have a pre-K basically at both ends of our community to service some students that may not be being serviced now. With limited busing provided for that, we now give families an opportunity to go to a closer location. Then Mitchell, Frohart, Maryville, and Wilson would be K-6, service students in grades K through 6. Again, Prather would service students just like Grigsby in grades pre-K through 6th grade. And then Lake, again, would be the alternative center, servicing students in grades 5 through 12. Okay, our K-6 boundaries, we tried to get them as much as we could to neighborhood schools. There's one little area that I will talk about that you'll see why doesn't it fit there? So just so you know, when we first look at Prather, that is in yellow. And it looks somewhat similar to what we had before in the K4 model. Obviously, it doesn't take as much up. So then when we look at Frohart, again, it's the coral, did we say?
Coral or salmon.
Okay, coral or salmon.
It looks more like a salmon.
That services those students there. If you notice, these boundaries are a little smaller than they were before, especially when you look at the Maryville boundary. I know that's the last on the legend, but when you look at the Maryville, how much smaller that is. Then when we look at Wilson, that is in blue, and Mr. Mitchell is pointing to that for us. So you'll see how much closer these boundaries are, which cuts back on, I don't want to get in my pros and cons too early, but it cuts back on route time, how long students are on buses, how many buses we possibly need. So Mitchell up there at the top looks very similar to the K4. When you look at them side by side, though, you'll see that it is a lot smaller because now we are able to utilize Grigsby as a boundary. And so when you look at the Grigsby boundary, there's one little triangle that's out from it. So that is an area that has a large population of students that we're going to have to be bused one way or another. Whether we bus them to Frohart, whether we bus them to Prather, whether we bus them to Wilson. And to keep it where our boundaries where we would not necessarily have to bus, where students could walk to school, we wanted to make sure that we were going to have to bus them somewhere. We had to look at where our larger buildings were, and so that is Grigsby. So in the hope of still keeping a neighborhood together, that's where they're drawn. That neighborhood obviously would go by some other schools, but they're still being a neighborhood to go to the same school. And so approximately that's about 100 students in that triangle area that we would service through Grigsby. As time changes, we will obviously, if this is the model we go with, we will look at that and make adjustments as we needed. Just so you know, these boundaries, these will annually be looked at to make changes where we need to balance our building sizes. But that would be something we would definitely look at to see if we needed to make a change where maybe Frohart could take that or Wilson could take that on. But again, at this point, after 2 years of data, we came up with the same conclusion that that area needed to go to Grigsby. So that's the K-6 boundaries. Okay, with the K-6, we do have an example here of a two-tier transportation model. We feel like this is the one configuration that gives us the best chance to be able to do that. Again, like I said, with with the high school in Coolidge, servicing the entire district, we can basically use 16 buses to do that. Right now, our current runs, we have about 32 buses. If we count our lake buses in there, we have 35 buses. And so we know we can run the high school and Coolidge at the same time. Knowing that that's all in the same corner, we do not want to have students arriving all at the same time. I know that would be a cluster. So we have a staggered start time for those two, but know that they're really on the same tier. So then when we go down to Grigsby, Mitchell, Frohart, Maryville, Wilson, and Prather, we can then, since we've cut boundaries and we now have 6 boundaries throughout the community, we can start and stop them all at the same time. Which, again, this gives us the best option to get to that 2-tier model. So you could see that we're starting at 8:50 and getting out at 3:05. The other thing, if you go back, Brad, real quick, if you go back to the boundaries, you can see that when they do get out at 3:05, they're not going to have to go very far to then get home. So the amount of time students will be on buses will be cut a lot shorter as well, which will also be in the same as the K-4. Thank you, Brad. So again, for shorter routes. Now, we do know that there could still be a possibility that we can't get to that, so we didn't want to not have an option if we had to go to a 3-tier. So similar to what we've had with the K-4 and the current configuration, high school and Coolidge would go back to their regular start times that they're on now. We would utilize those buses to service those students, and then basically our 3-tier would be with the Grigsby, Mitchell, Frohart, Maryville, Wilson, and Prather buses, where we would have to, basically you'd have Prather and Frohart would be the first run, and then the second run would be Grigsby and Maryville, because Maryville would be a smaller area, would not include as many buses. And then the last run would be Mitchell and Wilson, because Mitchell and Grigsby would be our biggest boundaries. So we would then link them up with our smallest boundaries. So that would be a 3-tier. And you can see it changes the start and end times again if we would have to go to that. But we didn't want to say we didn't even think about it. We wanted to have something prepared for that. K-6 building model. Pros, vertical alignment of curriculum within the buildings. With the K-6 instruction being provided in the same buildings, teachers will be able to communicate up and down grade levels. Only option for possible 2-tier busing with standardized building start and end times. With the 6 boundaries, not as many buses will be needed. Highest potential for after-school enrichment and extracurricular opportunities. More accessible pre-K program for Grigsby and Prather. Again, we'll be offering at both ends of the district. Least amount of students transitions. Students in grades K through 6 remain in the same building as long as they don't move their entire career. Some of the cons: requires additional staff, discrepancy in class sizes between buildings, renovation costs, limits flexibility in provided specialized services, and again, just similar to the K-4, 6-day enrollment staff movement. We anticipate that. And for those that were around for a while like myself, you remember those days when we had to move teachers and staff around. So I mentioned I would talk about class size discrepancies between buildings. Just an example here. Under our current model, if we look at Prather, they have 94 students enrolled in the kindergarten level. If we used 4 teachers, that'd make a class size that we can balance out to 24. If we were to look at a K-4 or K-6 in either building, A or B, so if you look at A, we have 38 students as a kindergarten level. We utilize 2 teachers, and now they have 19 students in the class. Whereas in building B, we have 56 students. We utilize 2 teachers, and now that class has 28. So across the district, you might have some class sizes where one building has a much lower number compared to another, and which is something we've dealt with in the past. And it's something I've spoken about as we went through on these updates, but just make you aware of that.
Just a question or a clarification or a comment, I don't know what it is actually. I mean, if we're in a situation where we're having 28 in a class, it's not outside the realm of possibility that we look at adding a teacher for that grade level,
Could be.
correct?
Yes.
So it's not like you're stuck.
It could be looking at that, or it could be looking at with those 6-day enrollments to where you have to move people.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's why you look at all those different things.
Because 19 versus 28 is quite staggering, and it's a possibility, but
Right.
it's not, we're going to be like, well, that's how it is.
No,
We
exactly.
will try to,
We will try to address it,
Equalize as much
yes,
as possible.
to the best of our ability.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, and this next slide really speaks to what you're saying.
Yeah.
So the discrepancies between grade levels in a current building. And so say we have a 5th grade class that has 38 students. We utilize 2 teachers, and we have 19. We look at the kindergarten class that is 56. We utilize 2 teachers, and we have 28. Same type of thing. But just the footnote down there at the bottom, while district could add 1 teacher to the kindergarten grade level at the building to lower class sizes, if we would add 1 teacher to every at every building, K-4 or K-6, it could be a cost of $480,000. Now, obviously, we wouldn't have to do every, but we're just showing those information out there so as we make an informed decision. with that. But yeah, that's why you look at
Certification.
6-day, look at certifications where people can move around. And that's why we will look at our boundaries again as well to redraw if we need to address those needs as we start to see things. Okay, the tentative school boundaries by sheet, that's what I mentioned, and this will be posted on our website. It's on the website right now, so for those of you following live, if you want to go on there, you can do that. Click here, and so we basically have a potential street list by boundaries where you can pull up your street. If you notice something is off, please send us an email, because I do know, as those of you familiar with this community, we do have Wilson Street, Wilson Avenue, as we try to diligently address all of those. If you notice something, let us know now. Once the decision is made, if whatever reconfiguration we go to, we will then put a new program out after the December meeting to where you will be able to look it up. We will set up a program, you can type your street in and then look it up. We just didn't want to do that for two possible configurations. We just wanted to be able to do that for one. So we'll have a program out there where you can type in your street and it'll tell you what school you go to. And again, if you notice something looks off, let us know. We'd like to know now rather than the start of school year when we can address the busing now. So that is the information. I know Mr. Mitchell has recorded this. It is going to be out there for Facebook Live. We will also start looking at an FAQ. If there's any questions that seem to keep coming up, we will put that on the district website for people to go out and look at and see to answer some of their questions. I know we've kind of already started compiling some stuff that we thought might be good questions. Tried to cover many of them in this presentation, but just if you have anything, please reach out and let us know to try and answer. And then the next board meeting is the December 10th, 2024, for the when the Board of Education will vote on which configuration we're going to. Thank you. Questions?
Thank you. Just a comment. This is a massive undertaking, and I know the three of us have been involved in it for a while. Actually, Talon was too in the beginning with me. So it cannot be understated how much, or overstated, I guess I would say, how much work has gone into this already, let alone all the work that is to come. So thank you to you and your administration, and also all the input that we've collected over this last year for this. It's a huge change, but
I've appreciated the emails that I've received from the public, from staff, just different things to think about that we've looked at, and so it's been helpful.
Yeah, just to piggyback on what Erica said, the amount of work is crazy. It's basically like looking at the administrators and saying, hey, you know all that stuff you do? Well, now you need to do a little more because we want to do this. But I think everybody on the board has wanted to do this. Everyone has said, this is something that we want to do, and so that wouldn't have happened without the administration helping.
I think it's a perfect example of change is complex, as we stated early on, and I kept saying like a broken record, but also that while it might not happen at the timeline that everyone wishes, it's important to involve as many players as possible and to do it the right way through collaborative work. And I think that the administration has really modeled that, and I appreciate that. That's how you affect change.
Thank you. I do want to add this. I just had this handed to me. The email, so we can put it all in the same area, information@gcsd9.net, if you email that. And we'll add that to our presentation as well underneath where it says click here for your potential street list. That way it's all, you're not trying to send it to myself, you're sending it to Chris Mitchell's transportation. You can just put your questions to information@gcsd9.net. There'll be a number of us that have access to that email, and then we can look to answer the questions through an FAQ. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know a lot of people were probably tuned in just for that, and which is part of the reason we did it so early. Next up is our consent agenda, which contains those items that are repetitive and routine in nature. Any member may make a motion to approve the consent agenda or request that any items be moved to Section 7 for individual discussion and consideration. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second, okay. And then for discussion, do you want to go?
Yes, I would. We've actually had a few things donated. First, U.S. Steel donated some roll stock to the Granite City High School vocational program, so thank you so much for that. And then it was really nice. We had the Wall of Fame banquet where we honored some of our alumni, and Detective James Rooney actually presented something to us, and he was actually a few years behind me in school, so I remembered him and he remembered me. But he is a detective with the New York Police Department, and he basically presented it to the high school and to myself at that night, a flag that was flown on the grounds of the World Trade Center, and so with a nice little plaque with that. So we're going to put that out for everybody to see. So I have that in my office right now, just figuring out exactly where we want to put that. So I just wanted to say thank you to him for that. Greatly appreciated.
Yes, thank you. And that was actually the first Wall of Fame ceremony that I had been to, and it was a really nice night. I liked it.
It really was.
Up next, we have...
We need to vote.
Oh, yeah, we do need to vote, don't we?
Silva.
Aye.
Curran.
Aye.
Linneman.
Aye.
Vinnie. Aye. Bradley.
Aye.
All righty. Next is 8A, retirements and resignations.
It's recommended that the following retirements and resignations listed below and on the GCSD9 website be accepted.
Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Roll call?
Curran.
Aye.
Linneman.
Aye.
Vinnie. Aye. Bradley.
Aye.
Silva.
Aye.
Okay. 8B, requests for leaves of absence.
It's recommended that the following requests for leaves of absences listed below and on the GCSD9 website be approved.
So moved. Second.
Okay. Roll call?
Linneman.
Aye.
Vinnie. Aye. Bradley.
Aye.
Silva.
Aye.
Curran.
Aye. 8C, requests for extensions to leaves of absence.
It's recommended that the following requests for extensions to leaves of absences be listed below and on the GCSD9 website be approved.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Roll call?
Vinnie. Aye. Bradley.
Aye.
Silva.
Aye.
Curran.
Aye.
Linneman.
Aye.
And 8D, extracurricular recommendations for the 24-25 school year.
You've received detailed information about this item. The administration is prepared to hold or make recommendations for discussion in executive session. The GCSD9 administration is recommending the following extracurricular assignments for the 24-25 school year listed below and on the district website be approved.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
And just for people watching or listening, it's an assistant tennis coach position, and the rest are all lunch duties for the second
Yes.
quarter.
Roll call?
Bradley.
Aye.
Silva.
Aye.
Curran.
Aye.
Linneman.
Aye.
Vinnie. Aye.
Okay. 8E, certified and classified substitutes.
It's recommended that the following applicants listed below and on the district website be approved as substitutes for the 24-25 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Silva.
Aye.
Curran.
Aye.
Linneman.
Aye.
Vinnie. Aye. Bradley.
Aye.
Okay. 8F1, rescind employment of 4-hour union cafe worker for the 24-25 school year.
You've received detailed information about this item. The administration is prepared to make recommendations or hold for discussion in executive session. The GCSD9 administration requests approval to rescind the recommendations of Jessica Bladdock as a 4-year union cafe worker for the 24-25 school year due to lack of communication.
So moved. Second.
Roll call?
Curran.
Aye.
Linneman.
Aye.
Vinnie. Aye. Bradley.
Aye.
Silva.
Aye.
8F2, employment of 4-hour union cafe workers for the 24-25 school year.
You've received detailed information about this item. The administration is prepared to make recommendations or hold for discussion in executive session. The GCSD9 Administration and Interview Committee consisting of Dr. Adam Garrett, Executive Director of Human Resources, Chris McCullough, Food Service Supervisor, and Lisa Cochran, Human Resource Specialist, are recommending the employment of Ann Hildreth as a 4-year union cafe worker for the 24-25 school year. Approval is recommended pending the submission of required paperwork.
The 4-hour.
Right? Yeah. 4 hour.
4-hour, 4-hour union cafe.
Okay.
How would I say?
4-year.
4 year.
4-hour, sorry.
It's a long shift.
Sometimes it feels like a year.
She's working for a long time.
I move to approve.
Second.
Roll call?
Linneman.
Aye.
Vinnie. Aye. Bradley.
Aye.
Silva.
Aye.
Curran.
Aye. 8F3, employment of special education paraprofessional for the 24-25 school year.
You've received detailed information about this item. The administration is prepared to make recommendations or hold for discussion in executive session. The GCSD9 Administration and Interview Committee consisted of Dr. Adam Garrett, Executive Director of Human Resources, Mickey Watkins, Executive Director of Special Education, Steph Boyer, Special Education Coordinator, and Steve Mathis, Grigsby Intermediate School Principal, are recommending the employment of Jaquise Tippett as the Special Education Paraprofessional for the 24-25 school year. Approval is recommended pending the submission of the required paperwork.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Benny, aye. Bradley.
Aye.
Silva.
Aye.
Curran.
Aye.
Linneman.
Aye.
Okay, 8F4, employment of 2 GCSD9 custodians for the 24-25 school year.
You've received detailed information about this item. The administration is prepared to make recommendations or hold for discussion in executive session. The GCSD9 Administration and Interview Committee consisting of Dr. Adam Garrett, Executive Director of Human Resources, Eric Smith, Supervisor of Facilities Management, and Lisa Cockrum, Human Resources Specialists, are recommending the employment of Jonathan Britt and Deborah Sack as the custodians for the 24-25 school year. Approval is recommended pending the submission of the required paperwork.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Bradley.
Aye.
Silva.
Aye.
Curran.
Aye.
Linneman.
Aye.
Benny, aye.
Okay, 8F5, and is this what, we want to hold this one? Okay, this is the employment of GCHS Guidance Department Administrative Assistant for the 24-25 school year. And we're going to hold this for executive session under 2C1. So with that, we jump ahead to 10A, the FY25 School Maintenance Project Grant.
The GCSD9 Administration is requesting authorization to apply for the School Maintenance Project Grant to reserve $50,000 from Operations and Maintenance Fund 20 for matching funds required for application. The School Maintenance Project Grant is a matching funds grant that awards up to $50,000. The grant will be used for parking lot renovations at Grigsby. Approval is recommended.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call.
Curran.
Aye.
Linneman.
Aye.
Benny, aye. Bradley.
Aye.
Silva.
Aye.
Okay, 10B, the estimated tax levy resolution for the 2024 taxes collected in 2025.
Yes, I'm going to go over three things here that the Board of Education will need to do. Adopt a tax levy resolution for the 2024 taxes collected in 2025. The proposed resolution is computed on an 18% in assessed evaluation. This would result in a tax rate of 4.0375, which would be 1.061 less.
Point
one.
0.1061 less than last year's 4.1436. 2, authorize publication of notice of proposed property tax increase for the Granite City School District 9 and Truth in Taxation certification. Copies attached. These are required anytime you exceed 5%. To set December 10th, 2024 at 6 p.m. in the boardroom as the time and place for a public hearing on the 2024 levy.
So,
Just so the board is aware, this is a tentative tax levy. This is not final passage of the tax levy. It's authorizing the administration to codify law with a public hearing, publicize that in the secretary.
so I will make a motion to adopt the estimated tax levy resolution for the 2024 taxes collected in '25, authorize the publication of the notice of proposed property tax increase for the Granite City Community Unit School District Number 9 and Truth in Taxation certificate, and to set the December 10th, 2024 meeting at 6 p.m. in the boardroom as the time and place for the public hearing on the 24 levy. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any more discussion? Roll call.
Linneman.
Aye.
Benny, aye. Bradley.
Aye.
Silva.
Aye.
Curran.
Aye. Okay. And I think after that one, make sure I got everything. Yes. 11-1A, the GCHS student discipline for 2-year expulsion recommendation.
You've received detailed information about this item. The administration is prepared to make recommendations or hold for discussion in executive session. The administration is recommending a 2-year expulsion for student named under separate cover with services if available. Approval is recommended.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Vinnie, aye. Bradley.
Aye.
Silva.
Aye.
Curran.
Aye.
Linneman.
Aye.
Okay. 11-2A is our Freedom of Information Act requests.
Yes, the Freedom of Information's Act's requests are listed below and on the district website. They were handled by administration.
Okay, and 11-2B is our Illinois Association of School Boards Liaison Report from Lori Silva, one of our board members.
Yes, I have it. Okay. The school board, anybody that is a school board candidate for the April 1st, 2025 election, just please be aware that you must turn in your signed nomination petitions this week, starting today through next Monday at the county clerk's office. That's anybody interested in running for the school board. And also, the IASB webinars are available online for anyone who is interested. That's IASB. That's it.
All right, thank you very much. And with that, we are at section number 11 for executive session, which we did choose to hold 8F5 for executive. Under 2C1, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body. Do we have a motion to enter executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Okay, roll call.
Vinnie, aye. Bradley.
Aye.
Silva.
Aye.
Curran.
Aye.
Linneman.
Aye.
Okay, and
6:41?
6:41.